We don't see him much anymore, but Jiminy the Cricket gave some of the earliest advice about today's important topic. Like your parents and teachers, Pinocchio's sidekick offered kids their earliest lessons on reasonable care.
For you and me, 'cause I'm no fool.
Welcome back to Law Dogs. I'm Jeff Henley, your host, and with me as always is Annabelle. Today's topic, as indicated, is reasonable care. I don't need to tell you that it's an imperfect world. I already told you that last time, right? It happens. Well, frequently happens because people aren't using reasonable care. People do things like speed, run lights. Others don't look out where they're going. Still others take it to an entirely new level, like this guy, or this brain trust here. To protect and compensate others from the inattention and craziness of other people, we have a standard. And it's a standard that doesn't require you to be a rocket scientist, or a graduate student from MIT, or somebody who mapped the genome. It's just what we expect from a reasonable person, or what we sometimes say as the ordinarily prudent person. Now, the reasonable person standard is what we call an objective standard. It is not a subjective standard. And what do we mean by that? We mean that we create this person, this artifice, sometimes people call it, of what we expect and assume people will do in particular circumstances. It is not a subjective standard, and what do we mean by that? We mean we're not talking about what a specific defendant thought or behaved like on a specific day. We're talking about what we assume and demand everybody to behave like in the same particular circumstances. Now, reasonable care is sometimes kind of intuitive, right? It's based upon our daily experiences. Now, with reasonable care, we're usually talking about particular circumstances. What someone would do in a particular context or circumstance. Now, on the road, we have lots of different obligations. You have to keep your vehicle in a single marked lane. You have to follow traffic signals. You have to adhere to speed limits. These are all duties that are imposed upon us by traffic laws and things that we learn about in order to get a driver's license. But reasonable care, of course, has so many other applications. We have them in professions, we have them in vocations, and in particular contexts, some kinds of conduct may be reasonable in one instance, but not remotely reasonable in another. Indeed, reasonable care can change over time. It evolves because as we evolve and as society progresses, we come to learn that particular standards of care are no longer acceptable. Now, COVID-19, for example, has imposed a great many new standards of reasonable care for us. Who would have thought that in months past that you would have sort of a duty, a social duty, if you will, to keep 6 feet behind somebody or to walk into a premise and wear a mask? Now, at some point in time, there may or may not be litigation over certain things, but the fact is it is an example of how it is that what is reasonable under the circumstances evolves. Now, when we're talking about reasonable care, we're talking about the kind of care that protects you and me. Folks, if you have any questions about reasonable care, you email us here at Law Dogs. Until then, we'll see you soon. You stay out of trouble, or the Law Dogs will get you.
Be a fool and do things which are wrong, but fools find out when it's too late that they don't live so long. Oh, I'm